And welcome back. And if you're joining the cast just for this game, so you're new, welcome. I'm your host Green Havoc, and I've got Frito and Paulsable, and we're about to start breaking down our second match of the day, which is Looking for Org versus Up Gaming. Now, both of these teams have some pressure put on them because earlier in the day, we saw the Black Dragons fall to Isurus Gaming, and so these playoff spots are hotly contested. Luckily, I've got some big brain analysts to help me break down what's going to happen and who's going to take this match. So, Frito, I got to ask, who's going to take this match in your opinion, and how are they going to do it?
Well, between LFO and Up Gaming, we think this is going to be a premier matchup, possibly with playoff implications, but these teams may see each other deep into the playoffs, possibly even. But Up Gaming last week, I think, showed that they may not be as competent on the 3-3 composition as they choose to play it, as often as they choose to play it, I mean, where they try to run it all the time. The issue is that they seem to be a team that has a lot of individual talent, sort of like an upgraded Black Dragons, if you will, but they may not have the exact level of coordination to step up when it comes to some of the high-level support play around your main tank, where, yeah, Edgigus, we know he can pop off on the Doomfist. TH7 is a playmaker as well, and Sombra, but they started to fall a bit short last week against LFT Owl when it came to some of the combo plays, really clean engagements, and we saw a lot of, I would say, strange types of engagements out of Shozine, where he looked to try to shake up Fasty, who was really weaker on newer on the main tank, but it sort of fell short for them. And so up against this week, I think Mate's even a step up from that, and looking for Org is probably going to be pretty secure in this matchup.
Yeah, because looking for Org right now, they, like you said, they have Mate, who, unlike Fasty, is a much more experienced main tank. Chozine went for a lot of these strange kind of baity plays, which is something we can expect at this level, but even Fasty was able to read them and punish them for it. And Fasty is more of a timid main tank, whereas Mate is very defensive, right? It's like playing timid, but you know what you're doing. So if Fasty was able to take advantage of those, you can expect Mate to, especially when he's backed by the Zarya of Lowlife. Lowlife is a player on this team, on Looking for Org, that we expect to pop off no matter what hero he's on, and he's looked very prominent on the Zarya. Very good. And if Looking for Org don't have a disconnect like they had last week against Isurus, which kind of led to them having a loss that they didn't necessarily deserve, Up Gaming should be shaking in their boots.
All right, well, it is time to get into the game, which means I'm going to send over to the beautiful voices of Panda and Labosco. Guys, on over to you.
Thank you very, very much for that one, Green Havoc. It is Labosco and Panda with you. I'm Labosco. That guy who's right next to me, that's Panda. We're going to Busan again here for the start of what is a very highly anticipated match, as you heard the desk just talk about, between Looking for Org and Up Gaming. Super important for both of these teams to get the win here, Panda. And we're seeing them just kind of playing around with what they want to do as far as, now they decide to set on it. So LFO showing us what they're going to show at the beginning.
Right around that 2-second mark, you'd normally see these teams fall into the most powerful composition. The Zenyatta Goats, we are back here on Busan. It's Sanctuary this time. The Slapfest is about to come around this right-hand side of your screen. There's going to be a lot of big tank play to go off of those playoff implications. Mate and Chozine, they have a lot of pressure laying on their shoulders.
Well, the trade happens, though, here, thanks to Balti. Will take Chozine down, but they also lose Lowlife in the meantime, so you have a Zarya gone and the main tank gone, so maybe advantage to the team with the main tank and Mate, so he's able to at least keep control of the point, keep his shield in front, which is close to being, and he gets stunned out, and then quickly eliminated by Up Gaming as they take control. AGM just going crazy on that D.Va at the beginning there, thanks to a lot of damage coming from that TH7.
Even though Up Gaming lost Chozine early, the off-tanks TH7 and AGM, the D.Va, Zarya, respectively, when you have more than 40% charge, which TH7 did, good shield bash from Himura coming out there, really able to obliterate Mate and flip that team fight around on its other side. This point in particular, Labasco, is just really hard to play around. Even when you do have a Reinhardt, you can use the drum as a really good breaking of the line of sight for the enemy team to be putting damage into you, as we see looking for a way to attack this point, along with Frix's self-destruct.
Looking for an opportunity to potentially use it here. Gonna throw it out preemptively as well. Not a bad placement of it, but it won't find anything. Graviton Surge thrown out here will cause 2 to fall for thanks to Upgaming. So they will have control here. LFO backing away.
Yeah, gonna have to back up, go to that proverbial drawing board once again. No swaps will probably end up coming through for looking for Org here in a moment of time. They're going to have a certain advantage here. Oh, actually, Balti going to go ahead and take a swap. Maybe get a good pick off at the beginning. No, just going right back to the Zenyatta. You'll see some players do that when you see spawn campers happening. Upgaming TH7 in particular, using his Graviton Surge, trying to get an advantage with that as much charge as he has to his name. Searchy won't be having the sound barrier for the next engagement, which is where Pardal's going to have the advantage. More importantly, Upgaming with all their ultimates.
Able to block the Earth Shatter, and then a massive one comes out from Mate. Did not get the Lucio, but he's able to take that Brigitte away from the fight. Sranin was able to find Thiago, though, so they're already able to get that Zenyatta down. Maybe can push into this fight for LFO. Self-destruct here, blocking it, though, is the main tank. Oh, but Mate with the fire strike will take Imura down. Mate as well, swinging his hammer into TH7, and Lowlife behind as well, throwing out a ton of damage, and Pardal will fall 95%, though they built up to. For Upgaming, they have no ults.
It's no hidden message that the Reinhardt is the president of these compositions. You can see here on your screen the beautiful replay being played out. It's just the shattering, but through with the pin all the way through all the cleaving and the shield management, Mate is firing off on all cylinders, able to keep his support's loss to a benefit. Even without the speed boost, Searchy went down to the self-destruct from AGM, but he was still able to find so much.
Out comes the Graviton Surge. Mate charges into Chozine, eliminates a few in there. AGM just trying to get away on that. David probably going to end up going off onto that coast there, off where that Sanctuary is. So will not give too much ult charge, but still great position for LFO as far as ults.
A quick resets is the name of the game here for Upgaming. They're at 95% of the control meter, so if they win one more team fight, they're going to be able to take them this first stage of Sanctuary on Busan. Looking forward, however, they're still holding off with their support ultimates. This rally is going to give Upgaming a certain advantage, but they need Thiago's sound barrier, or I'm sorry, his Transcendence, and they need TH7's Graviton Surge to be massive.
Not able to use it just yet. Main tank falls down in the beginning in Chozine, so they're going to have to possibly wait, but they're still in this fight is the only thing. But Frix and Balti eliminating the players that are there in AGM and Pardal, so they're staying in front here. 70% they build up to. TH7 taking a while to go down, finally does, but they now have at least a Transcendence and almost sound barrier to work with.
It's really unfortunate that rally went to a huge waste. So you're almost getting kind of an assault map type feel here that you need a plethora of ultimates to be using and stacking on top of each other just to take the point back. That's how Sanctuary plays out, to my previous point before. Looking for still have their support ultimates, and that self-destruct just to go right in the middle of the team. Graviton Surge TH7 just finds the Reinhardt of looking for.
Found a few more, but the Transcendence was in there, and the self-destruct wasn't in a position to do any damage, but it doesn't matter. They're able to follow up on after it later, and Chozine with a nice fire strike into the Baby Diva. They will get control of this back. 99%. I don't think anyone can get there. Upgaming by the skin of their teeth, win this first map, but geez, Panda, was it close.
There are a certain amount of really just close moments in that last team fight, but you'll get a unsung hero kind of feel to that last team fight as it played out. Real composed play coming through from all four supports on the board. Searchy, Balti having to use their support ultimates a little bit too close to the enemy spawn door. That Graviton Surge TH7 was perfectly timed, so that way Upgaming had the support ultimate advantage. Pardal with that sound barrier towards the end of that team fight really gave Chozine the extra advantage in that that proverbial Reinhardt love dance when they're just standing next to each other with the shield. He gained a certain aggression just to cleave on forward and just to continuously displace and damage the entire team of Looking for Org. Upgaming now look to continue their rampage here in the streets. We're going to downtown.
Downtown is where we're going to have these massive battles come through between LFO and Upgaming. Near comps as well from both sides. 3-3 compositions. Looks like control of the point will go at first to Upgaming. That's where they position themselves, so that's where they're going to take. Although now they start to rotate around, so now the positioning of both these teams changes. High ground advantage goes over to Upgaming. pushing their way back in. Chosen swinging that hammer in, backing away now. Frick's just looking for a place to shoot. AGM is found. Zarya, who's caught out in low life. Oh, so close to falling, but had the personal bubble to stay alive. And low life in the meantime is able to take down Pardell. Low life again. Chosen and AGM will end up losing their own life. I think maybe either into the subway or just blowing off that way.
Yeah, once the team fight was more than lost, whether or not AGM decided to go off the edge on his own accords or not, you really got to tip your hat to how Saran took that fight, right? Playing very aggressively, taking advantage of that, how small the shield is for Brigitte and being able to see around the side. Communicating to Mate, I can tell by physical nature when they are aggressing to each other. There it is once again. The shield bash only found one because it's shattered.
It's okay. It was an important target in the Brigitte, but the only thing was you had the armor coming through thanks to the rally. So armor on everyone for Up Gaming, so they still have a chance to be able to win this fight. But Low Life can turn this around potentially with the Graviton Surge. Looking for that opportunity to use it, but it got eaten! No! Massive eat coming through. Great job by AGM to turn this fight around, and now they can use Grab if they want, but they're not going to need to use any ults. Eating that ult was enough to get them the win for Up Gaming.
Making 2 seconds last is as if Defense Matrix is an ultimate in the game. Up Gaming had to throw almost little to none resources in that last team fight, looking for Oregar down a Graviton Surge and the Transcendence. So TH7, who held on to his own Graviton Surge, is about to be huge in making this impact for Up Gaming starting of their control meter. Searchy with the sound barrier won't be able to sustain enough pressure that Up Gaming are about to dumpster into this Graviton Surge. Look, he's just hiding, being able to be communicated when the Reinhardt pushes too far forward. They didn't check, but he gets shield bashed anyway.
He got the shield bash, so good reflex, but he still finds an opportunity to self-destruct. Just lives through the self-destruct that was thrown out from LFO, and the self-destruct of AGM will find 3. AGM has been so timely with some of these abilities that they've used.
All of the members of Up Gaming, they are firing off on all cylinders. Take a look at this replay here, folks. It's the way that they're able to group up all the members, the sound barrier coming through to keep TH7 alive. So that way they were able to land the Graviton Surge, and then the shield bash from Himaru, so that way the shield was down, and AGM self-destruct able to find 3. That is just real clinical play coming out from Up Gaming together. Able to hold off onto these 3 ultimates. Might push them into the last team fight scenario, looking for Auric with the Transcendence. Have to use it aggressively if they want to see the light at this point.
Percentage-wise, it's still in favor of LFO is the only thing, so not quite over is this fight for looking for Org. They still have opportunities to turn this one around, and they have the Earth Shatter to do that. Mate pushing his way forward as we see Chosen here being kind of just waiting here, looking for his opportunity to use his Earth Shatter. Very patient. Both teams uses his Shatter and doesn't find anything. We'll see when Mate decides to use it. Oh, his didn't get anything as well. So both of these Earth Shatters don't do anything, but that just benefits Up Gaming because they still have control of the point. Up to 88%. Re-engage coming here for LFO. Pushing forward. Mate swings into Himura and takes him down. Low life onto Pardo. Throwing him back. Has his ultimate available as well. Chosen charged into a precarious spot. Just a bubble to save him for the moment, but it looks like he's still going to fall eventually. And Low Life finds Chiago as well. AGM does get Fricks out of mech, which could spell something good for later for this side of Up Gaming, but they lose the point, but they got to 99%.
Up Gaming continue to showing us how composed they can be in these very pressuring matchups. They didn't use any ultimates. Now the shoes on the other foot. Low Life looks to hold off on this corner and be communicated by Mate when the Graviton Surge can be played out. They don't have any support ultimates outside the sound barrier to hopefully keep them alive through this re-engagement. But look at Up Gaming. They're too wise. They're going all the way around, so the Low Life has to rotate back around. But these team bubbles for these Zaryas have really been, enabling the rest of the Reinhardts, keeping each other alive. Graviton Surge comes out by TH7, catches a few above.
And it got Low Life. Low Life taken down, so the Graviton Surge gone and out of this fight. Good use of the self-destruct and just good use of that Graviton Surge, even though it found one. Oh, then Frick's got 2 with the self-destruct, so back into this fight is LFO. Frick's still just trying to keep pressure on the front line that's there for Up Gaming. It is into overtime. Last fight for sure. And starting to push forward is LFO. Saran with 2 taken down early in this fight. Low Life back into the fight, uses the Graviton, throws players off the point. AGM, the only one left alive, and it looks like it's going to take a third map for us to find a winner, just stalling for as long as possible. We're going to map number 3 here on Control Center.
This is the matchup that we expected to see. Two juggernauts of Group B facing off against each other. Just like the Deaths had mentioned, this is going to be a playoff match happening in the near future. I would definitely lean in that direction. I mean, you can just tell how well they are all working with one another. I was talking about the Zarya bubbles before that last team fight broke out, and that last team bubble, or the team bubble from Low Life, came out to save Mate as Chozine found a cheeky charge on to looking for Org's Reinhardt. That could have been the turning of the fight for Up Gaming if Chozine was able to land that pin, but Low Life was right there keeping his Reinhardt alive. Very clinical play coming out from both of these Zaryas, especially for TH7 and Low Life. The only downside was when Low Life threw the Graviton Surge into AGM's defense matrix, but no swaps yet again as we go over to Mecha Center, so expect bigger things. Graviton Surges, self-destructs from Fricks and AGM. These teams are firing off on all cylinders. A slobber knocker of a match.
Definitely a slobber knocker, and it's who makes fewer mistakes seems to just be who's going to win these matchups, forcing their way to have control at least of this main area right now is Up Gaming, and Chozine finds Searchy, and now Thiago will eliminate Balti, his counterpart in that Zenyatta. So being forced back is LFO. They will have to regroup and spawn. An early advantage will go to Up Gaming.
Another big plus to having Zenyatas on your team, they can gauge you that advantage in the middle of an opening team fight when the Reinhardt is blinking his shield or throwing out a flame strike, is when Thiago strikes, finding a good volley in Orb of Destruction to find his counterpart. Like you said, gains him a certain amount of advantage, but Balti is no slouch. He's still finding the damage and gains weight for Chozine again, finding Mate early.
It's almost like the download has happened here for Up Gaming. They're controlling this fight early on, have a rally available as the first ultimate up in this fight.
Yeah, and that armor is going to be even better for Thiago to gain more sustainability so that way he can continue to I suppose his destruction with the orbs on the high ground. It really being set up well from his team. Here comes the rally, looking for Org, still gaining weight to this Graviton Surge. If they're going to attack this point momentarily, they're going to wait for the rally to disperse and just speed into the enemy tanks and look for something huge.
Of course, still have to fight through that armor regardless of the fact that the rally is over, so you still have a lot of damage that you have to deal. But of course, these comps can deal plenty of damage. Low Life getting sped around, so they're going to throw themselves onto the point and look for a cheeky take here as they do make their way on. Oh, those barriers coming up right as this fight starts is perfect for LFO, as they will be able to take advantage of it with the Graviton Surge, so they're able to flip the point here. But Chozine does have his Earth Shatter, and he gets everybody! Massive Earth Shatter coming through. Counter Earth Shatter by Mate, and he puts himself into the Zarya, gets stunned out as the only problem. Up Gaming still into this fight. LFO self-destruct. They still have control of the point is the big thing here. Frick's stalling it for as long as possible before quickly being taken down, so Up Gaming can take this point back.
Both teams throwing everything and the kitchen sink out in this last team fight. Look how this last team fight just ended. But as both teams are looking to engage, once again, the one ultimate that they'll have up for Up Gaming is that self-destruct where Fricks threw out his. We know AGM before, even when it's unassisted, finds one, sometimes two with those self-destructs. Himaru pulling out that rally is going to help out Chozine on the front line, get a Graviton, or get that Earth Shatter faster than Mate, as you can see, already ready to be beating him in his ult percentage charge.
Thought the rotation was going to come to that door up top, but it came from below. Thiago, though, didn't care that that's where the rotation was. Self-destruct as well, eliminating two players early on. Chozine has himself another Earth Shatter. He catches himself a Diva and one more, charges away, and now it's just the Lucio left on the point. Up Gaming exerting dominance here in map number 3, or in point number 3 to win map number 1.
Yeah, we went the distance there, and I feel like that's how the series is going to go. On the other hand, with Up Gaming, they are just firing off on all cylinders there on Mecha Center. It's one of the harder points to take away from the enemy team, but the back and forth that we had in that middle team fight was probably the most exciting team fight that I have seen in this region thus far. It was just impeccable. All arts being shattered there from both these teams. The Juggernauts, like I was saying, all the way back on Sanctuary. Look for these Reinhardt players, these main tanks for both these teams impact the match as much as possible. And you're seeing that by way of their Brigitte players as well. Just again, two well-oiled machines going head-to-head at each other. This matchup is actually insane.
It really is. I think one thing to point out about this is we're going to watch that final fight that happened. It just seems like that. I almost had a loss for words as we're watching this replay of that last fight, but the 4UP Gaming, it's been so close. They found a couple of those support eliminations by their supports too. I think that's where I think I've noticed the biggest difference between these two is just you had a couple of times where you lose your Zen or your Lucio at the beginning, and that just makes the fight so much tougher if your support goes down early.
Well, that's why you have 3 supports, right? No, I'm just kidding. But it's one thing you have to look at when you're not only talking about just the support role in general, but they are flex supports, keep in mind you. So there are a certain amount of versatility that they have in their experience of Overwatch. Tiago and Balti, I would definitely put up there for region's best Zenyatas, right next to Olay, of course, and a handful of others. And when you start looking at how these Zenyatas are impacting the game, it's not just by their final eliminations, it's not by their volleys, but sometimes just their positioning, just being very careful where they're standing by themselves, because that Reinhardt shield could go down at a moment's notice, and that's where you saw Tiago find the opening frag onto Balti in that last fight. But when you start looking at more than that, when you hide for a Transcendence to come through and gain the biggest impact and hold off and be more composed, is where you gain the biggest advantage. Leading your team with the Discord Orb can be very difficult, to say the least, in a 3-3 composition, because team fights last for such a long time. But when you're right there leading off with the damage, keeping all those members low and disregarding the healing that can come through from the enemy team is really where you're impacting these matchups. And I'm seeing Tiago take a little bit better advantage from his team's positioning to gain a better positioning himself.
One thing to point out here too, that was LFO's first loss on a control map. They had not lost one yet. So now they move to a 3-0-1 record on that map type. We know our next map type is hybrid here, Panda. So continue to watch some of these replays that are coming out. We're going to Hollywood. And as far as LFO is concerned, they've only played there once. They won that one. So not exactly a bad map for them to choose.
It's not a bad map at all. I think altogether, when you lose your first control map in general for either of these teams, you get a little shook. We talk about momentum here in a game like Overwatch and in a long series that a best of 5 can be, and I think that's what we're going to end up seeing here is going to all 5 maps. Excuse me. That. I think off of that you have to pick for comfort. If regardless of whatever hero that might be, Hollywood as itself has a lot more versatility to it as a map itself. For Escort, when you're on that streets phase, more hit scans can be played, more high ground control heroes can be played. You can see a little bit more versatility coming out. Big gravitons are just coming through, but you can also combine that with a Dragon Strike from, say, a Hanzo. But to go back to the previous state, we'll probably still see a lot more 3-3, whether or not that's the Ana, the Zenyatta, or the GT goes with the Moira. I think we need to be looking at how these divas are really enabling and keeping the rest of the team alive. It's more than just the supports finding each other one off, but I think what we're really seeing the difference in between the play styles of Fricks and AGM is the defensive style of AGM coming up and above. It's the same thing with that cleanse in the Zarya, right, Lobo? I mean, you have to be careful when you are using that Zarya bubble to cleanse your Reinhardt. Same thing with that 2 seconds defense matrix, making it last for an eternity, keeping your supports alive, keeping the Reinhardt alive on the front line, and just really using it proactively so that way you can get your self-destruct and be more timely with your positioning and your abilities.
It's just about knowing when to use it. That's the biggest thing because of how short it is now. And I mean, I think both are pretty good, but AGM has had the bigger plays with it. AGM, though, not just that, the self-destructs have been so good as well. Some of them obviously are a little bit easier when you're just throwing them into a grab, but that hasn't been the only way that AGM has been making them work is the important thing. So I think that's something to look at. Yeah, sure, they played the same comp, but there's so much nuance in those comps, I think is one thing to always point out. We could see them run mirror comps almost throughout. That could be something that's entirely possible.
It is something entirely possible, and we see it across region to region here in the world of Overwatch that they'll play the most powerful composition. We saw it in GT Dive with the Genji and Tracer. Then we moved over, we've forgotten about DPS. Now we're just all about tanks and supports with the 3-3 composition, but there are certain different implications to that composition with the Zenyatta or the Ana with the Moira. There's a lot of different tanks that you can take with in between the Winston, the Reinhardt, or the Hamster. So we'll just see for if these teams look to implement some of those different tactics in their playstyle. But I think in between these two teams specifically, it's highly unlikely, especially for point A, hold, defense, and attack. Chosine and Mate, they've always stood out on their Reinhardt. Chosine's Winston is a little bit, I would say, beefier than Mate's, but only time will tell. This might not be the map until we get the Streets phase. But as looking for Orb, look to set up their attack, and Upgaming look to set up their defense. Where there is no more speculation. It's probably going to be just like we were discussing, 3-3 across the board.
And there's no speculation about the Overwatch Open Division. It's going on this weekend. Week number 2 starts, so be sure to tune in on Broadcast.gg too, and of course, when available on Broadcast.gg. So be sure to catch all of those matches right here. But of course, we're doing Contenders right now. The doors have opened, and starting to move forward is LFO, who will start on the attack here in the green. Ooh, very close to falling early on was the Brigitte for Upgaming, but able to stay alive is Himura. Plenty of healing to come through that, but still not a bad chance here. They're able to get the positioning they want. Because of it, you don't have as much utility, and now they push their way onto the point. Mate swinging that hammer in, fire strikes into that team as well. Halfway already to his Earth Shatter. Trying to start building up on this, but still contesting enough to stop that from happening is Upgaming, looking for their opportunity to come forward as you have a very high charge. Zarya and G7 Thiago able to get the main tank down in Mate, and that should cause the regroup to happen for LFO as they had some players falling, but if they can only give up that little bit. Oh, but Thiago again, able to eliminate Balti.
I really respect and appreciate Thiago's positioning. Normally, you'll see the Zenyatta take the positioning on top of the cafe, right above the point, right above that mini pack. Where Thiago was playing was really utilizing the terrain in his team's composition correctly, playing the boxes behind the point, almost where you see that Shiki Torbjorn turret get placed in your rank matches at home. It's right around where he was playing and kited back to, and it really worked out in the favor for Upgaming. And looking for Org really found themselves at a deficit, but they didn't really know how to attack the point, and they know what they're doing this time, throwing the Graviton Surge out.
Both teams have Graviton Surges, the later one being used by TH7 in combination too with the Mate Earth Shatter that came through, so his Shatter did nothing while everybody got caught into that grab for the most part. And oh, Frick's caught right before getting back inside. No mech.
Yeah, again, probably. Oh, no, that's actually better in a way that he didn't end up having to swap back and forth, that he ended up taking the elimination instead. That way he was able to hold off to the self-destruct. The Lowlife did throw that Graviton Surge out in that last fight. They won't have the bigger bang combination. Upgaming, on the other hand, won't have theirs either. It was thrown out in the last team fight. They are really utilizing it well. The Shield Bash combo as well with Inamuru instead of Edgigus. Good stand in here. Regardless, Thiago's going to have the Transcendence available. Both Zenyatta's, in fact, going to both teams alive effectively.
Thiago doing it in a different way, just with his orbs and with his destruction orbs more than anything. The loss of Mate at the beginning was huge, Panda.
Yeah, and that's going to be like the hardest part, regardless of the day. When you lose your Reinhardt, it's a lot of lack of shielding, if you will, that you can't end up staying alive as the orbs of destruction are just, of course, being volleyed in there as we go to a brief pause. I think more than just the Reinhardt got taken away in that last team fight.
Yeah, I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, seems to be what's happening here. So I believe we're just going to take a quick timeout, and we'll come back as we'll continue with this that's happening here on Broadcast.gg. Back here on Broadcast.gg, Labasco and Pandas, we jump right back into action. We were just at a pause. It just finished, so you haven't missed anything, but Frix throws in a self-destruct here right as we get going. So Chosen already down in this fight. Early advantage onto the side of LFO, but TH7 coming from behind with the Graviton Surge. Self-destructed in the middle with 2 for AGM. They turn this around, and Imora just throwing that flail around to get back into this fight, and it's another win fight for Upgaming.
Every time LFO have an advantage, Upgaming always have an answer. And it was a beautiful combination coming through. Again, the shield bash from Himuru on to the shield. AGM able to find the self-destruct into the bigger bang combo. It was very, very nicely done. Frix throughout the self-destruct more aggressively, sure, was able to kill off Chosen. Mate is going to have the advantage that Earthshatter. They're going to have to make it worth it here in this next fight. If Pardal is able to keep his members alive and get a good sound barrier off, looking forward, are going to be at a real deficit here.
Well, the sound barrier comes out pretty early. Overtime meter has started. Out comes Earthshatter, gets Chosen, but oh, a great use of the sound barrier. Doesn't matter, Chosen's still going to fall because of the charge from Mate. Mate swing his hammer, finds 2, finds a 3rd, and his team will finally get control with the overtime going.
Yeah, and they're going to be able to unlock the point, too. Take a look at this replay here. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a fantastic Earthshatter, regardless of the fact if you get to see it or not. Earthshatter came through underneath the payload, and the payload, you know, ladies and gentlemen, this is a futuristic car. This isn't your average limousine. It's off the ground. It ain't on wheels. It's floating in the air. The Earthshatter went underneath, and the ground was shook. So now the payload is unlocked. Upgaming, they're looking to take this advantage early. A lot of charge over to TH7 to pick back up on that damage he was missing when he went down in that last team fight. They're going to have the Graviton Surge for the re-engagement. Tiago with that Transcendence might have to be aggressively used to keep the tanks alive.
They still, of course, have themselves a Transcendence to use. No ultimates coming up just yet. Low Life is the closest one, along with Saran on the Brigitte as the other one for LFO, very close to getting an ultimate up in the fight. So just poking at each other right now are the front lines. Out comes the bash. Does find a few players behind. The shield did get back up, and then the counter shatter will find a few, allowing for the Graviton Surge to be thrown in. Only problem is nobody fell through it because of the Transcendence, and now the grab coming out, and Thiago throws those destruction orbs in and gets the team fight win for Upgaming.
So it's more than just the ultimates to where looking for Org are at a deficit, and where Upgaming just seem more composed. Upgaming, they're going mirrored ultimates, Earthshatter used after Earthshatter, Graviton, etc. But they're more composed with the way that they're using their abilities. The team bubble coming out from TH7 to go on the Chosen while the Earthshatter was coming through. Everybody was still behind the Reinhardt, so even when he was going for that cleave, they were still able to stand up straight.
Preemptive Transcendence for LFO. Keeps everyone pushing that cart forward. Self-destruct thrown in. Sound barrier was used. AGM close to losing mech and does so. So that's a good start for LFO into this one. Can use that Graviton Surge whenever they want, but they're not going to need to. They're going to be able to keep this cart moving through the streets.
They're going to need it. They have one, if not the only team fight left for LF attack. On point B of Hollywood, they've looked good when they do have the ultimate advantage, and that's going to have to be this Graviton Surge. You're going to have to find it pretty early before TH7 gets enough charge coming onto spawn, and Low Life understands that. He's already set up on top of the saloon, looking for the flank Graviton Surge one more time. They got to be careful. They need more damage. Mate needs to cleave through. And Tiago has the Transcendence, and it could be Upgaming's hold here.
Oh, nice throw. Didn't know where he was.
Beautiful.
Able to get that one and gets everybody in it. Nobody has felled yet because of a great Transcendence is the only thing from Thiago, and 2 kills with the Fire Strike for Chosen. Transcendence to keep the few that are left alive as we're into overtime. TH7 will use his Graviton Surge and clear the cart, as it'll be the fight win for Upgaming. They now know what they need to do to win this second map.
They came in with the kamikaze grab and they still lost that team fight. That's actually insane. A huge Transcendence coming out from Tiago, primely timed. LFO, they seem to be a little bit lost as far as being able to damage through the Transcendence, which can be done with the Reinhardt for sure if you can keep them alive with your own team bubble coming out from low life. Seems to be where Upgaming are gaining the advantage here on Hollywood. They were certainly going tit for tat on Busan, but here when the payload is introduced and an objective is being played around, Upgaming are certainly gaining the advantage. Tiago coming through bright behind the shield of Chozine, but it's just that collective play again. AGM, the unsung hero with that defense matrix, you almost wish it could show up on the kill feed because the man is truly popping off over here. Even when he does have that self-destruct primarily placed for the shield bash of Himura to come out, to take down the shield of Mate and get a bigger bang combo, his defense matrix onto Tiago and for Chozine just to continue up their pressure and that Goliath playstyle that we see from Upgaming is really just by way of his defense matrix play alone.
You know, they should add at the very least, Panda, the when you eat an ultimate, because I feel like that's something that should be seen up in that kill feed. I think that would be a good addition.
I think it actually would. I think it'd be really fun. I mean, we know that if you actually defense matrix a Moira orb and it damages one of your friendlies, there's actually a beautiful minor bug in the game that you can actually kill your teammate with the defense matrix. It's really fun. It's very rare, but it's actually really hilarious at the end of the day. And I hope AGM doesn't succumb to that. Not a lot of Moira is being played, but you know it's a possibility. It'd be funny.
So, it would be, but I would feel bad for whoever it happens to. You know, I would probably be so mad if that happened in a comp game. I would not be happy. But this is not a comp game though. This is Contenders. This is high level stuff, and you know, high level bugs can happen. But we don't have any Moira, so we don't have to worry about it. What they do have to worry about though for LFO is Chozine forcing his way onto this point, onto this cart already to try and get it going. Forcing this team back, throws a nice fire strike in, gets a few of the players low on LFO. They're quickly healed back up. Chozine very close to losing his barrier, and as I say that, it falls, but there it is. Nice use of the bubble by TH7 to keep him alive, and they already are getting the wins in this fight to open up this point. Just have a last few players left. TH7 high charge and already almost to a grab.
Chozine could only stay alive for so long. Low life, however, with all that charge, able to come back and implement himself just by a way of his own personal bubble. The healing aura coming out from Search, he's skating around. There's actually enough stall time. Notex went over to Upgaming there, and the regroup coming through. LF4, they're able to hold off Upgaming for one team fight, and they're both actually have a plethora amount of ultimates. The ult economy skyrocketed there in those final moments. Both teams are going to have a sound barrier. More importantly, that Graviton Surge in the corner of the server room finds two.
Low Life being extremely creative to avoid what AGM can do. Throw the self-destruct in, does AGM. Does manage to take out the Brigitte, but the only problem is